I'd like to welcome everybody to the February Park and Recreation Commission meeting. My name is Kelly Rosecrans, chairperson. Can we do a roundabout introduction of everybody here, please? That seems to be the easiest. So,
Dawn DeSorcy, staff.
Steve Cole, Alderman. Lee Town Commission member.
Tom Realmwalder, person, commission member.
Mary Wolosik, staff member.
Zach Ruick, mayor.
Chris Bartek, commission member.
Tom Eklund, commission member.
Greg Rowan, commission member.
Carolyn Martin, commission member.
Matt Heidemann, staff.
our guests.
All right, I'm Elizabeth Whalen and
Amy Pollock, and I'm with Trail Bark Community Park.
Jen Gray, same.
Joe Terry, Director of Public Works.
I'm Dennis Pollock.
Okay, good. Thank you, everybody, and we'd like to welcome the public viewers as well. So, our first item on the agenda was approve the December 9th, 2019 meeting minutes. Has everybody reviewed those and additions?
Make a motion to approve as written.
Motion by Tom, second.
Second.
Second by Craig to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Item number 3, the update on our zoo improvements. Joe? Matt?
So we took on a small project this winter on the duck house down there. New windows, door, siding, fascia, and soffit. The Texture 111 that was on there was shot. The doors were shot. So that project is 95% complete. And we're, as you recall, as part of the master plan, we were looking at doing something with a bear pen, a rebuild, putting a roof on it. The design and build costs on that were what we felt unreasonably high. So we're looking at in-house now, and we've gotten a materials list, and we're doing a design right now. And I think from what we've been able to gather to this point, we should be able to do that project for just about what the actual design costs were. So that's looking pretty favorable right now. We should have a final design and information to probably get to you maybe by next month's meeting. So did you, sorry.
Yeah.
So which design did you use? What someone else proposed, but you decided to do it in-house? For less cost or a different design? It's slightly different design.
Yeah, so that was part of the issue, was trying to figure out what, how to redesign this particular enclosure. And really when we were talking with our consultant and looking at the scope of services and what the needs are, we really determined that the main factor is just get the elements away. And a roof structure does that, and a roof structure we can build around the outside of the facility without affecting the facility itself. We can do some upgrades in the fencing and some minor upgrades inside to segregate and meet some of the recommendations of our of the caretakers that provide the animals for our zoo, and make some minor improvements such as field stone and some other things to the interior to make it more a little more of a natural habitat, but yet an area that we can still easily keep very clean. And so when we looked at those, we really thought that we could do that work ourselves in house and put those donated funds towards more of the facility than the design on that, because I don't think it's, we're not looking at something completely different and new. Minor changes, and we can handle that ourselves.
I think if you remember, we went back and tried to negotiate the design contract. It just seemed like what we were thinking we were designing, what they were thinking they were designing were two very different things. I remember the conversation, and the cost never really materially came down. And I was going to ask, what was the exhibit? What would that house in the?
Well, we want to make it kind of multi-purpose, not a specific species, but I think we listed, I can't remember what we had on there, maybe a half a dozen different animals that you could put in there. Basically, stuff in the small to medium size range. The dimensions are not code compliant to put bear in there. Again, years ago there was bear in there, wolves, tigers, and none of those animals fit the criteria in that space anymore. So if you go down basically one size from that, that's what we'd be looking at. You know, we've had KVs, Cotamundes, that type of thing in there. But this, when this is done, besides the weather factor, the interiors are gonna be more, I guess we're gonna try to mimic more what their natural environment is, as opposed to just, you know, a concrete floor with stone. It'll still be concrete floor, but there'll be different things in there, so they'll have places they can hide and crawl, walk, jump, whatever, so.
Good.
If I
Mayor?
remember, we were thinking about an aviary exhibit, so
Yep.
depending on the price, how this shakes out, I know we were gonna maybe talk directly with the, the design, get the design folks out of the room, but maybe the build aspect about maybe a more out of the box design, aviary or aviary. So we've got we haven't really tapped much, if anything, of the 300,000, right? I mean, from some of the master planning might have come out of that, so we still have a fairly sizable gift for the new commissioners that was gifted to the city for improvements
There's gotta be
exclusively at the zoo.
2/3 of that left,
Yeah, I would think so.
somewhere in that neck of the woods.
Yeah.
We should probably have an update on that and then what the proposed expenditure is for the remainder.
Definitely.
We should have a fairly close cost estimate here coming up, yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you for that information. Let's see, we move along to number 4 here, the update on the East Riverbank improvements. I see they were working on that too.
Yeah, we
Before the-
wanted to put this in there because, in case anybody hasn't noticed, the new fence is up in the Mead Rapids View area on the river wall. That's completed. And I believe the fence on Veterans, they're waiting so they can finish that, overhang part, and the fence will be part of that project when they complete that. So if you haven't seen it, looks pretty good. And that part of that park is pretty close to complete. We'll have a little sprinkler work to do in the spring and a little touch-up, final dressing of soil and a little seeding, but otherwise Mead Rapids View is pretty close.
So
Power was restored to the clock bell tower a couple months ago now, and that's been running good now. Everything should be pretty good shape over there.
Strike site doesn't work, but that's our issue.
That's your deal, huh?
So since we met last, there were questions about bench removal and replacement.
About what?
The benches.
Bench removal.
Benches that removed and people had
replacement of the benches.
sponsored them and then should be some subsequent replacement, but I'm not under.
Yeah, so we're working to replace the benches along the river.
Are they same area or people have been contacted or what?
We haven't
what's going
contacted
on?
people yet.
We've made a list of the bench donors, and Dawn's compiled that list, and now we're going to, I guess, try to contact, and I know there's a few that wanna be back in the area that they were, and we're gonna try to honor that request.
And
Maybe.
between Dawn and I know we've exchanged some communication from potential, or some of the donors that have, because we didn't really have contact information, I think, for a lot of these folks, if I recall, Dawn.
Correct.
So it's been on a basis of them calling us to discuss their donor wishes. I don't think there were any agreements originally that the city had
Can't
with the
find
donors.
anything.
It was pretty informal.
Right.
That somebody gave a donation and the city just said, yeah, we'll place it in this general area. So as you can expect, there's some folks that expect it to be replaced, and I think the challenge that the city engineer pointed out to me is when they regraded that park to add wider sidewalks and handicapped accessibility, or accessible walks with certain grade, some of those bench pads went away. So I know the city engineer is working on compiling a list. It looked like the preliminary list that the majority of them could be placed in that park in a similar configuration to where they had been before. So that's good news. There may be an opportunity to move one or two of them into the Mead Rapids View Park. That park only, I think, had 2 before. It looks like the new plan calls for more benches in that area, but they were just the new style, not the, so I think the idea is to just take out the ones that we were gonna put in there that were new and then just put in the old benches in those places.
So just for future, I mean, I think you mentioned that we might not have known who these folks were to contact them before removal. I mean, I get that, but it would be nice if we could do that ahead of time. But secondly, as a commission member, if I don't know the plan and I get a question, it looks kinda ridiculous for me to try to answer it, so. And we got questions about, well, what's going on there with this, well, I didn't know what to say. So, just would be good if we could provide as much information as possible.
Did you refer them to city staff? Cause I think
I
had
did,
heard there was a lot of
Kelly got a
folks
call,
that,
I don't know what.
a lot of folks didn't have an answer and they weren't referred to the city staff, so
Which,
city
which
staff
goes
couldn't
for the
respond.
planning though, I mean, if we had a plan and if we had, even if I'd have known that, well, we didn't know who to contact, I could've said that, but I didn't even know that. So,
Yeah, all the
I mean,
plans should be
just-
on the city website, they're all on engineering or planning page, but, I mean, certainly, sending them to city staff would have been the most ideal, so Dawn could have fielded those questions and provided the accurate answer, and there's a lot of misinformation that the city removed those benches and they were either being salvaged or they were never gonna be replaced, and I don't know where that information ever got created out in the public sphere, and unfortunately, it became a game of telephone for a lot of these folks.
but on the other hand, these people made a contribution to the city, so, I mean, you wanna give them whatever up-to-date information you can, otherwise why would they ever do it again?
Right, and that's why the city staff department that deals with the donations would have been the right place to answer those questions.
Okay, any other questions or concerns? Thank you for that update. Item number 5, we have the update on our aquatic recreational center. That's gonna be Joel.
Yeah, so a few, quick progress report, on site, the, bathhouse windows and exterior doors are being installed, installations installed. Drywall is, complete, about 95% of block fill is complete, finished painting is underway. Some of the trim work's installed. The wiring between the bathhouse and equipment building are in, the transformer's been energized and so are the panels. Gas piping and duct work is being installed. Plumbers are installing piping through the plumbing chases in the locker room areas. Metal siding is started and counter flashing work. Control joints are being caulked. And the park shelter, equipment building, cabana, and the shelter off of the bathhouse area, all that tongue and groove is installed. It's absolutely gorgeous. And in the control for the controls of starters, variable frequency drives, and some of that is installed. Over the next 3 weeks, work will continue on painting, some mechanical rough-ins and finishing work, some of the resinous and epoxy flooring, and some of the finish work, the log covers on the columns, both at the outdoor shelter and the shed-type shelters will be done in the next couple of weeks. So, a lot of work going on in the off-season. The contractor needs to be well prepped for spring because we had such an early fall. They're really hoping for good weather come April 1. So, a lot of work going on.
There was considerable discussion on the fees and stuff. Has that gone to the property and finance, or how is that progressing?
So fees have been approved. We're still working with preparing documents to offer reduced rates for our neighboring municipalities should they choose to participate. And this Thursday, the mayor and I are going to be meeting with the Ho-Chunk Nation to discuss their interest, if they're interested in participating as well.
Okay, good. Any questions or concerns?
Just, was
Yes, Mayor.
there feedback about the fees? I know the feedback that I had heard were non-residents that were pretty concerned about the fees and perceptions around what non-residents maybe thought they were paying for when they weren't actually paying anything. I mean, was there any specific feedback that you had heard?
Mayor, I haven't heard.
Okay,
of
I'm just
anything,
curious.
so I don't know.
Or if others have heard anything on the fees? Feedback. I think the feedback in terms of resident rates was, it's affordable, I think, and it's very relative for what people think is affordable, I suppose, to their own personal situation, but I was just curious if people had heard anything. I know some of the neighboring municipalities have, and maybe you mentioned that too,
Yes.
have sought updated information. We had shared this back with them about 3-4 years ago, if not more.
During design, right?
During design, trying to bring some collaboration. I think they're now getting feedback from their residents to say, why aren't we participating? And
Okay.
so I think it's generating some good feedback at the other municipalities to hopefully offer resident level rates so we can, it's easier to administer and all the reasons we've talked about before too. So just gets curious.
Have all
Okay.
the municipalities been contacted? about-
So we're doing, in the process of preparing some letters of invitation right now. I've prepared a first draft for one municipality, the mayor's reviewed that and provided some feedback. And so now we're expanding that draft, and as soon as we're prepared for all the municipalities, then we'll send them all out at the same time.
Good. Alderman?
Yeah, I think if we be kept informed on where those communications are going, where they're at with the different communities, as
Sure.
far, if there, as an to update us on. The other thing is, I guess, Joe, where are we at on how people, what they use for an ID or whatever to get, or for
So we,
pass?
I worked with staff and we did a demo from the same company that provides our current reservation software. And they have an excellent module that we're gonna go forward with. And it's a RFID key fob is what we'll be using. So once they get registered, it's just scan the fob and their picture will show up on the computer so that the attendant will know, in fact, it's them and they didn't share their fob with someone else. But we were really pleased to see that all of the fee structures and some of the things that we had, I thought were a little unique. They're not, and their software is, I mean, they were able to demonstrate during the presentation every single portion of our fee schedule that we had. And I think, Dawn, you might, I mean, it looked like it was gonna work really well.
I think it will.
I think our biggest challenge will be the first several weeks. Once we get the software in play, we'll be notifying the public and trying to get as many people to register before the season starts as possible. And we do only have 2 stations in that entry area, but we also do have a lifeguard, a computer system in the lifeguard area. So we may try to operate out of 3 stations initially so that people that are pre-registered can swipe their pass and go enjoy the pool, while we handle the other applications and photos and things like that. Because that'll be a little bit cumbersome if, 100 people are sitting there ready to go swimming and we've got to take care of them.
Because we're coming up to the last, whatever, 3.5 months.
Yep.
Hopefully the weather cooperates, starting in April, to work on the outside. But I think to keep this commission up to speed on where we're at, and whatever meetings we need to have to be involved, I think, to have that on there, that just the aquatic center is an important issue really at this point in time, to make sure that we do this right, that we open this all right. And I guess other things would be numbers to it. What are we showing for number of lifeguards, basket attendants,
Sure.
and that,
So Mary has drafted a plan, staffing plan and operational structure for our guard staff. I'm in the process of reviewing that, but we know what we need to be code compliant, and we're making good progress to having a final report ready. But I'm sitting on the draft right now for review.
I think, again, it's just, I think, to keep this commission up to speed on where everything's at, in case there is something that would have to be changed, or,
Sure.
number-wise or something like that, so that, it's not a last-minute, third week in May
Yep.
thing to look at.
Yeah, we'll be glad to forward, when we get that plan finalized, we'll get that forwarded off to all the commission members if you're interested. And then the same with the letters of invitation to the municipalities. If you're all interested in that, when we send those out, we'll send you copies so that if you want to review those.
Is there a target date for that?
For the invitations?
Mm-hmm.
Well, within the next month, certainly. Yeah, within the next month.
Is there some type of a commissioning thing for all the equipment? Like, is there gonna be, I mean, if they have a problem over there with all this equipment and, I mean, anything, like, is there someone, maybe you or someone on staff that's gonna go and look into, I mean, there's so many more pumps and.
Right, we're working on, there'll be multiple people with a pool operator's license, and then on the mechanical end of it, you know, we do have a maintenance guy that we're going to, have become familiar. We've already taken a tour of the plant, as far as the mechanical room part of the plant there, and, so getting them familiarized with, you know, the basic layout and design, and then as this thing progresses, we're probably gonna have at some point somebody who their forte is going to be pumps. Will probably be utilizing something from wastewater. They deal with pumps all the time, and they're familiar with the instrumentation. So between wastewater, our maintenance person, and whoever we end up, you know, as an additional staff member, that there was emphasis is gonna be on the pool, so.
That's a good idea, I didn't think of all the wastewater treatment.
Kelly, just one more with the, I think staffing, you know, some of our other departments, we've actually had a problem with getting people to apply for summer help positions. And this is gonna take a number of people to operate, but also with that, for lifeguards and that, the qualifications that those people are gonna have is hopefully we don't run into a problem at the end that we can't find people qualified to actually do these different positions, because it's, somebody just can't just walk in and say I want a lifeguard's license.
Do you monitor that, Mary?
Like that.
I actually put out a plan ahead ad for lifeguards,
Maybe I forgot.
last month
Okay.
already, to start kids and college kids thinking about, because they're gonna have to get their certifications
Yeah.
now, this winter. They're not gonna be able to wait until they get back from school to take it. I've also been networking with Natalie Jones over at the high school, and she is a certified instructor, and we are going to be offering 2 classes. She's working with us very well to set up 2 classes for new people, for new lifeguards, and then she's also gonna offer a recertification class this spring. So we've been in contact, and we're planning a March and an April class, and then a May recert class. So I've been
Okay.
working and
Nope.
trying to think ahead, because I know we're gonna need multiple
Things that just come to mind, and
to
actually
fill the
talking with
staff.
a couple people the
Yeah.
other day that
Mhm.
brought it back to my mind again.
Kelly, one of the challenges with the training with staff is that we'll literally be proving out the facility right as we're opening it. And the opportunities for staff training will be in concurrence with our startup training. So we've got several staff members that we've engaged with, and you know, we're taking them to the facility and showing it, but you know, the O&M, all of that will be last minute, because it'll be last minute for everybody,
Right.
you know, as the plant gets complete.
Are there, like, like Stevens Point, or do they have like, park and rec or recreational management, like internships where you could pick up some people that are interested in those programs? My 2 sons were in park and rec, and I know they had to do internships and pretty much for nothing. I was just wondering if the universities or some had people.
I've been doing a survey for wages, and to see what type of wages they're offering for all the different levels of positions. And I've been accruing that information, which I'm gonna be sharing with staff tomorrow. And also, as far as certifications, what type of certifications are they offering? Are they offering them just the lifeguarding certification, or are they offering them the lifeguarding and then the water park section? Because you can offer both, or you can just offer the one. And that's something that the staff needs to decide, if we just want them lifeguard certified or water park certified, which is an extra certification.
Okay.
And that we'd have to do on site. And we'd have to hire Natalie from the Lincoln High School to teach it.
Interns, we get a lot of requests for Zoom.
You do?
Yeah.
A lot of,
And I know lacrosse, you know, I think municipalities closer to universities, they offer internships. I know Stevens Point does not.
Okay.
Eau Claire does not.
Okay.
And the majority of them do not.
I know lacrosse does, because I had.
Yes,
people remember that.
lacrosse is one of them that does. Other, you know,
Okay.
I have
schools.
All right, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
You took the advertisement for staffing, I'm glad we covered that, because I think, we've actually had some good luck with interns and hiring our interns as full-time staff in wastewater and some of the other departments, and I think it's a really good point that I don't know if we really talked about with the facility, so we can consider that feedback as the staffing plan gets introduced, particularly for future full-time staff. The other thing that I would mention, to Tom's point about staying up to speed, I think it's really important that the commission set some times for tours, as we did. I think the last tour was good, but it was sort of last minute, not everybody could attend. It gets us all thinking about some of the other questions that have been asked here as we get through the critical time, and we're talking the next 3 months are really gonna be critical for decision-making at the city council level, and to the extent that the commission's also involved in various levels of decision-making associated with it. So I think we should, at the end of our meeting, set some times for tours that work with folks' schedules so they can get through the facility.
Yeah, that was a good walkthrough. That was before Christmas. That was
That's the
good.
last time I've been there, and I know, like Joe said, there's a lot of progress since then, and I'm sure it looks quite different already.
Yes, Commissioner Tom?
So just as a question of ongoing, so once this is up and running, does this committee have oversight over that at all? What works and what doesn't work, or how does that work?
The ordinance describes that relationship around who has what jurisdiction or authority, right? You know, the city council reserves the right to set policy as it sees fit in city property, but the Parks Commission does reserve, kind of carves out some of that. This commission though has the authority over the room tax budget as it relates to the parks allocation.
So the operations would not be this committee?
We'd have to look at what the actual ordinance and what question. Is it hiring the people? If it's hiring the staff, that would go through the city's Human Resources Committee and council process. If it's for, you know, reinvestment of using park outlay money, then it would come from here. But if it's an operational question, it's likely a city council thing. But ours, you know, we brought rates here because we felt like, one, it was good exposure to start talking about rates and getting feedback. So I guess it depends on what aspect you're talking about.
I'm just thinking there's gonna be some things that work and some things that don't, and somebody's gonna have to address those.
Sure. Well, administratively, the department has to operationally address them, but if it's, you know, equipment, if it's, again, if I ask a question, if it's acquisition or acquiring or procuring something, then it depends on what the funding source is, and that determines which group gets the.
Yeah, funding's pretty clear, but it's more how it operates, I think.
Sure.
And of course, we don't know those questions at this point.
Right, yeah. I guess,
Just curious,
yeah,
I-
the statement in the ordinance, I don't have the iPad or anything pulled up in front of me right now, but it, I would encourage, in fact, we probably all could read it, just to get up to speed on what the actual language is. The Park and Rec Commission is fairly indescript. You know, there's some question of whether or not some park things should go to Finance and Property Committee versus the commission, so.
I agree, because I'm totally confused on how the rafters work.
Yeah.
And Park and Rec.
Sure.
And I understand
Yeah.
there's a lease, but
Right.
I just don't
Sure.
get how that works.
Yeah, that's a really good question. We can, Dawn can send the link, it's actually
I had
code.wirapids.org if you want, I always
Yeah,
refer
I
to
can
people
send
that,
it
over.
I gotta create that shortcut, cause everybody's asking about the ordinances on every, you know, thing in the city, and if you go to code.wirapids.org, you can click, commissions, boards, and committees, and you have to scroll through the 16 or so boards, commissions, and committees we have, but it specifies in there exactly what the Park and Rec.
Park and Rec is number 17.
Well, I'd seen that, but
There's probably still some questions.
it's
on
not
it.
black and white, yeah.
Yeah. And that language could change.
I have a question regarding the aquatic center. I know from back when we were looking at the plans, now did we actually look at maintenance wise for it? Do we need to set up funds for maintenance, preparing for maintenance on it? Because from previous experience with the West Side Pool, we never had that maintenance money set up. And that was one of the concerns when I was on city council was, do we have that in plan, or what are we gonna do with that, and where are we gonna get the funds for that?
Sure. Joe's
Yeah,
not
so-
upset because
so
it's
the-
built into the budget.
It is the, maintenance and depreciation of the equipment is built into the budget. I think it's,
Into Park and Rec's budget?
into the pool, the specific aquatics budget.
Okay.
I can't rattle off the exact number, but it's significant. I think of the 300,000 in general operating expenses that's budgeted, around 200,000 of that is depreciation. So it's significant.
So if I may remember right, in the financials, you know, Whitterfield is a center within Park and Rec budget, probably the parks are, and I assume now the aquatic center would be. But I'm gonna go back to what Tom and I had said, I've never seen it, I have no idea what's in there. And I'm not here to question it, it just would be good to know what's there.
So you're asking this, what's the city's budget for those facilities and parks, yeah?
Well, tell me I'm wrong, I just would think that would be good to know.
Yeah, and we can share a link to it. It's all out there, on, I think on the city's finance page.
I think if Dawn could get out the, not to change from that.
No, you're
s-
good.
You know, to everybody what the responsibilities, what we do have.
I just found it, so
Yeah.
I'll send it.
And I have something here, but I don't know if that's what it currently is exactly or not.
Okay.
And I don't, cause I don't have my book with me. So I don't know if this is exactly it, but I think for the commissioners to look at, but with that is actually, I do have a referral in that the city look at different committees, commissions and whatnot, and if there's a way to do things differently, of who, you know, what duties different groups should have, so. It is gonna be looked at and, you know, so if people look at what the duties are, or if you have questions about it, or think something should be different, to let us know.
Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna speak for new members, but just when you come on, there should be some sort of onboarding process that gets you up to speed. And that would be part of it, I would think.
Orientation.
That's a good point.
I think we just get that sent out and that can be brought up.
Actually, copy it,
Yeah.
so the link to it.
I actually watched a video, did my own research, that was another time, orientation.
Okay,
video.
thanks for all that
Yeah.
input. Any other questions or, I'm sorry, Chris, were you talking to?
We were just discussing the possibilities of, you know, an orientation video or, you know,
Okay.
something to help along those lines.
Good idea.
But I did have one more question that maybe we could talk about
Mhm.
when you get your draft of the staff. But I just kinda wondered about the operations of it, you know, just maybe even the, like, operating procedures and, you know, who's in charge when there's bad weather and safety issues and that kinda thing. You know, if that's being looked at.
It's all
or
developed in that
developed.
one
It's all in
document,
there.
so.
Okay.
I think Mary,
I'm working
you're
on
kind of in charge of
Be one of them.
Okay,
for all
good.
the recreation, I believe.
And the CPO, certified pool operator,
Okay, good.
too, will make a decision.
I know probably when Carolyn and Chris, when you came on board, was Mary at the meetings?
Might not have been.
Probably not when you came on board.
A little bit.
I think we're at one meeting.
Okay. Okay, any other questions or concerns? Otherwise, thank you. We move into number 6 here, our update on this summer storm damage in the parks, and I think that's where you.
Yeah, just, when we had our last meeting, there's been some work that was done since then. Basically, the last park to be finished was Robinson Park, and just wanna let you know that all the power up there is restored now, all the cameras are functional, the new gates are in, the crushed picnic table's been replaced. Tree work is pretty much complete. So when spring comes, there's some painting and minor touch-up work to do on the north concession stand, and then asphalt repair by the open shelter. But other than that, it was late, there was snow on the ground, but we did get pretty much everything up there finished. So, there were some questions earlier on about the status of the park for spring rentals, and at this point, we should be able to rent at our normal time this spring. So, it's good news. The only thing, like I said, that's really, we'll need to do if the weather cooperates fairly quick will be the pavement by the open shelter. And other than that, everything else we can deal with, so, that's good news.
Good.
Sorry.
Tom?
So when we last met, we talked about an RFP process for the parks. And I don't know what the status is of that.
I think it was to be brought back to our planner,
Mm.
which we don't have at this time. and then after that, it would be brought back to the commission. That was what the notes
So
that I
it was
had.
requested and it's in process,
We don't
or
have
what?
anyone in that position right now,
So nothing's happening.
as far as I know.
Right.
Okay. All right. Any other questions of Matt, or otherwise, thank you for that update. We will move to number 7. Review proposals for installation of protective safety net above left field fence at the Witter, the new playground and splash pad areas.
So as the park is developed, the proximity of part of the park to the outfield and the probability of some home run balls being hit over the fence, we've taken a look at it and have come up with need to install a safety net to protect the kids that are using the playground equipment in that splash pad. And so we just last week received a quotation, and we don't have multiple quotations at this point, so I'll review this and ask if the commission's favorable to make a motion to approve a project with a cost not to exceed, so that we can continue to solicit those proposals, but once we have them, we want to be able to get going, because some of this work with the lack of frost could happen right now. So what we're looking at doing there is installing 130 feet of 30-foot high net structure. Structure consists of 6 5/8 inch Schedule 40 galvanized posts, set 6 feet deep in concrete footings, 22 feet on center. Run galvanized 3/8 inch aircraft cable and anchors at the end of each structure, with cable cranks on each position to lower the nets in the off-season. The nets will be 130 feet by 22 feet, number 36 net with 320-pound test twine. And we're looking at a cost for that project of $25,125 with the posts black. We can do galvanized posts for $4,000 less. But given the height and proximity to the park there, our recommendation is going with the black posts with the black net, so that it's unobtrusive and for both ball play and just in general. And this unit will be set back a few feet from the outfield fence so that it doesn't hinder ball play, so that a home run stays a home run. So that's what we're looking at. The quote we have right now is from American Fence. They've done these before, and we're pleased with the advice that they gave based on their experience with other parks, ballparks with exactly the same situation. We are soliciting additional proposals right now.
Where did it run from, Joe? Would the
So
start
run
be
from
like at
just-
the foul pole, or?
Just north of the foul pole, almost at the foul pole. And then, is it 130 feet south of that?
Okay.
And that
So
should
the
take care of
question I had with the color of the post, if it was gonna be right on the foul pole, it should coincide with the color of the foul pole, if it was gonna be right there.
Right.
Where does it end in conjunction with the aquatic park? I mean,
So what-
130 feet
what-
down.
Yeah,
No, I
130
know
feet to
that,
the south, but that's,
what's right on the other side after you get past the tower?
there's
Green
a green space area that's a stormwater detention, stormwater management
Okay.
area. So the sidewalk and all that deviates further and further away from the fence there, and we didn't feel that there's a substantial risk, as you continue south.
And what's the fence material again?
It's a net, a nylon net.
It's a net?
It's a net.
For 25 grand?
Yep. If you wanna go chain link, we did get a proposal for chain link, but that's permanent, and that tends to look, pretty institutional. This is the same type of net that is, behind the, batter's box that protects the crowd. It's not,
Must deteriorate over time though.
it does, but it lasts a long time.
And the intent is to take it up and put it
Correct.
down in
Down.
winter, so that way you get the
Right.
longevity hopefully out of it, versus a chain link that's gonna be up permanent.
We do the same with the net at Witterfield now, in front of the grandstand. We take that down every fall and put it back up in the spring, and we're anticipating life of that at 10 to 12 years, so.
It's the same material.
It'll be very close to the same material. They don't like having it up in the winter time because if you get an ice storm, the load on that net will actually stretch it. And then you've got the deterioration from UV, so.
That'd be kinda neat, 30 feet tall, that's probably kinda like Fenway's Park Green Giant, or whatever they call that big wall out in the outfield. That'd be kinda special.
Is that 30 feet from the question I had, was that from the ground or?
From the ground.
From the ground, so.
Yeah,
it'd be
so 30 feet high total,
It's being looked at, a new
20
fence-
feet above the,
It's being looked at for a new fence to go in.
3 stories.
So that's gonna be part of this whole thing too, and it hasn't been decided, I don't think, yet for sure how high the fence will be. It's possible that it could be lower, a little lower.
You mean the outfield fence?
The outfield
I heard
fence.
8 feet.
They're looking at, I don't know
And
if
they
it's been
haven't,
totally
they have a
decided.
pad, I guess
Yeah.
they're getting a pad for
Yep.
that.
Yeah, I don't know if they had totally decided on that, but that wasn't.
it's not decided at this point.
Isn't it a kind of a waste to start from the ground for that? If you got an 8-foot fence in front of it, why don't you start at 8 feet and go up?
Well, it's not gonna be tight to that fence though, is it?
No, it's
How
gonna be
far in
set back.
between?
No, but it's
About 2 or
got
3
its own
feet,
support.
so that if the ball's out of the park and hits the fence, that it rolls down
Yeah.
and,
Instead of bouncing back.
Big,
right.
Instead of 30 feet from the ground, you got
well, they,
30 plus 8,
they could put the
38
posts,
feet high.
they could put the posts in and then start the net
But
at
that-
8
no,
feet,
it's
but you
only
wouldn't
from
be
the
able
ground
to
30 feet.
suspend them.
Yeah, but the ground is waste,
Well, yes and
because
no.
you got the fence in front.
You don't wanna have the kids standing next to the outfield fence, still getting beat in the head because the ball's falling out of the net. If the net's going to the ground, you know, they'd have to,
It keeps them,
Crawl
keeps
underneath it.
patrons behind
Well, they'll
the
still
net.
be in there even if you put it to the ground.
perhaps.
You got a question?
I have a question, because, well, I'm Elizabeth Whalen again, and I'm a member of Bird City, and I'm concerned, you know, when I hear about a giant net right around a green space, about the impacts that it might have on, birds and, you know, migrating birds especially. That is gonna be a pretty attractive area for, birds with the water and things there, so just kinda wondering if there's been some study on those types of nets and their impact on wildlife?
Well, for a fall migration, they certainly won't be up, you know, it's June,
Right.
you know,
but
June through August, so
during the
generally
spring.
you know,
Is it just going to be up once the water park is in operation?
No, it's more of a, once the ballpark's being used,
So it's gonna be up all the time, it's not gonna come up and down whenever the,
correct. It's
yeah,
not
so-
up and down on a daily basis, it'll go up when the ball season starts and down as soon as the ball season is complete. Critical issue though is just the safety of
It is, but I think we need to monitor,
Sure.
you know, if it's having an impact.
I don't think
on,
we've had
you
any
know.
issues with bird strikes or getting tangled up.
With
The
the
other netting
existing
that's
net?
up in the park.
You wouldn't in that area though, I mean, this is
Well,
different, I mean,
but
from
you're
what I've
only-
seen, there's gonna be trees, there's gonna be.
You're only
you
talking
know,
3 feet in back of the existing fence, and I think with the amount of people that are gonna be in that park, I don't think the birds are gonna be wanting
It's
to.
just that it's the netting and it's gonna be hard for them to see it at.
Right, but I
mean,
guess what I'm saying is I don't think you're gonna see birds attracted to that area because of the noise, the amount of people that are gonna be there, the activity.
But
It's-
if you're gonna have it up even when there's not people there, is a question.
Because it'd be up
so,
24 hours a day.
Yeah.
But there's gotta be some data on whether or not that's an issue other places, and I can imagine it can be solved by having some colored ties or something incorporated into the net at various points.
If need be, like I say, we'll see, but I've never heard of any situations where there's any issues with the safety nettings around ballparks. with
Nor have I. They have them in a lot of places, but
Yep.
nor have I, but I think it's a valid point. Because it is kinda gonna be out there, you know, a little bit more open.
We can check with American too and see some of the other installations that they've put in and talk to those park owners.
Yeah.
It's the first I think it's come up in our discussion
Yeah.
ever since we've been talking about it.
That's a good question.
I'd have to be put up,
Yeah.
so.
Well, it makes
See what
sense,
we can
'cause
find out.
the whole design is so you don't see it, or you see it less.
I know years ago, there were the Nighthawks at night,
Yeah.
when the lights are on, and
Right.
they're up closer to the lights, but
Right.
it's a good point.
Is it something like, you know, like the Packers end zone where they put it up and take it down? Is that a lot more expensive to do something like that, or?
I mean, every day. Every day.
Yeah, so
You
the-
gotta have it up.
These-
there
these
for
things
the
are heavy,
aquatics center,
um,
not for the ballpark.
Plus you
and,
would,
you know, you winch it up.
Wear and tear on
yeah,
it.
you'd limit the lifespan of it
Only when there's
significantly
like
by
game
messing
or
with it every day.
practice going on, you know, then they
True.
could put it up.
There's
or
gotta be a
down,
way
they
that you
take it
can,
down.
because what they typically do is just like I said, add colored ties or something that's
Right.
not
So I don't.
completely obnoxious, but that at least it stands out a little bit on the upper edge.
Looking for a pulley system.
If you hear that's
If
an
it's an
issue,
issue,
yeah.
right.
But they're hanging these nets everywhere. I mean, this isn't atypical.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions? We can move on.
You're looking for potential
I
action?
was looking
Oh,
for,
yes, yes.
for action, to approve a project not to exceed, $25,125, to install the safety net.
Is there an obligation to take the lowest bid or no?
Not on this, it is under 25,000. It is questionable maybe if it's a capital
Yeah,
improvement,
what's our limit?
but even so, we'll, you know, we end up taking the lowest proposal unless there's.
Unless there's substantial difference?
Right.
We're
Okay.
actually allowed to do.
Okay.
But
do
that's
we have-
typical operating, you're saying?
Do we have a motion for a not to exceed proposal?
I'll make a motion not to exceed $25,125 for safety netting.
Motion by Alderman Steve,
I'll second it.
second by Craig, to approve a not to exceed $25,000 cap, 25,125, right? Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thanks, Joe. Okay, number 8, review the dog park survey results. So there were a number of responses. Is there any discussion on this? I just looked at this before the meeting here. Was Joe gonna have some input on that there, or can anybody?
I can speak to it, I guess, if Dawn isn't. Dawn prepared the summation of the survey results. I think the survey was open for 90
Maybe,
days.
or-
Was
yeah.
it, or maybe not that long, maybe a month and a half, 2 months. It was around the time of the closure of the conclusion of the lease agreement that the city had with Advanced. And the idea was to not get it, to kind of find some core areas where there was resident or even non-resident input and feedback as it relates to the dog park. So I think about 330 respondents started the survey, not everybody completed all the questions, but they did give us, I think, some good data, and it's just another data point for the commission to talk about this. You know, there's at least one user group that is looking at potential dog park. I don't know about the organization of others. There's been chatter that I've, in some respects, become familiar with, but not anything formal. I know the county was considering talking about it at a county board meeting. I never saw, I don't know if Dennis, if that came through any of the committees that Dennis is a part of at the county board level. You know, it seems to me that this is an issue that doesn't really have a real direction, and so at this point, the city's decision was to really just inform the decision, so we've got some information around what amenities and features people in the city and outside the city would be interested in having. I guess it's interesting results to look at it from my perspective. It's, you know, in my mind, I've always felt our community and our community broadly, Wisconsin Rapids Plus, should have a dog park, and I think it should be done in a way that's very much a team effort, that's contributors and volunteers and municipalities working together to be successful. I don't know, you know, I don't know what people feel about the expectation, if it's a city-led effort or if it's more of a community and nonprofit-led effort. There's a lot of varieties of how these are successful in a lot of places. So I'm more so posing the question and less so providing the answers, but I feel like in some respects, this survey gave us a good amount of information as to what people might be willing to commit to, or what they thought this commitment of whoever that might be to take on the dog park. So, and Dawn and I talked about this last fall when she compiled the survey results, and so we just figured at some point in the future just to get on a commission agenda for us to talk about the results and see what people's flavor and preferences were.
I see there's about 7 of, we were Trails and Tails, right? That was our park, Trails, Tails. And, okay. And then I just see that there was a deal on here for preference or suggestion for dog park locations. There's quite a few of them, or majority were east of the riverbank. I see almost 50%.
Of course, folks that use it on the west side would certainly prefer it to be on the west side, I think. I hear that.
Yeah.
Probably no surprise to all of us.
There's very few of the survey at 13.6% on the west side. Okay.
Sorry, what's the current status?
I
You're
don't.
looking at it.
Okay.
I guess it's just.
So there was, are you familiar with the dog park where it was located?
Yes. That lease was up and that's
Yep.
closed now, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Correct. And then there was a possibility at some space around the airport, but that was a no-go.
No, that's still a possibility.
Oh, it is.
It is, yes.
Oh, okay. Because we had heard no, right? Isn't that what we had heard?
For the temporary.
That was
quote-unquote.
temporary.
Yeah. We are looking, I'm Amy with Central Park Community Park. I'm the vice president, Jen is on our board. And we have been meeting since September, since the closure of our park, and we all miss it. We are just gotten our state identification number. We are currently in the process of having our status reviewed for nonprofit. We are working with an attorney to help us with any land type of issues. We're at the very early stages. We've had many discussions about, where the park should be and what would be best, and there are many differing concerns based on the amount of space available versus homes in that area in town here. We looked at a plot by Rudolph, which may work, not by Rudolph, by,
It's in Rudolph Township.
okay. Anyway, and that would be a huge undertaking, that area. We do want to work with the Airport Commission again, but instead of the north side where that small
Strip
trail is, we are thinking on the west side of that, there's a big empty area. In fact, it's the area that leadership group was looking at.
3 years ago?
Yeah, and then the group just disbanded, and that's why it wasn't further pursued. So we are seriously looking to bring that back up at some point. We will be fundraising and asking for grants. We would be more than happy to work with the city or the county, just to make it best for the area and everybody in the area. It's a well-used park, and we miss it.
Is the property that you're talking about Airport Commission property?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on the backside. I believe they told us it was 35 acres back there. And on that actual property, there's only one house. But it's down a dead-end road with a cul-de-sac down there, so I think the total houses back there are like 6.
So this is off of Sam's?
No. It's,
Must be west of the.
it's back by the golf course.
Yeah.
On that side of the property.
On that road,
Oh,
yeah.
oh.
Yeah. I know when you come around, you come up to like
Yeah.
a 3-way intersection, and there's a red brick house right there. The property would be to the left of that red brick house.
Okay.
Now, if I recall, the dog park, or the leadership group was looking at the property at the end of the runway, if I'm not mistaken, though. I
That
don't
was
think
the
they were, Yeah.
That
That
was clear.
temporary area
Sam
that
said.
we, yeah, it wouldn't
No,
have
no,
worked
not
out.
off of that runway.
Oh, across the road from
Yeah,
that?
I'm-
Closer to
I don't
Sam's.
believe I
That would
recall.
probably be an option
I'd have to
too.
look back at our
We'd have to
records
look,
on that,
yeah.
okay.
The airport commissioner told us that that was the exact same property, cause I specifically asked about it.
Okay. Because it
Because-
involved the golf course, and the golf course obviously would abut the other end of that property, and that was,
No,
we brought them in previously on that.
they didn't tell us anything about the golf course, it doesn't even come near the golf course.
Because we just cleared that property from, with the trees that were
Mhm.
removed, that was all wooded before.
Yeah.
And we were talking to them before it was cleared, so that's why I'm almost certain, but nonetheless, we can look at the records on that
I'll
and
have to
see.
double check.
Yeah, look at what the minutes said and that.
So that's what I have to, report on us. We have about 15 members in our group. Always looking for more members to help us out, and, we will have an article in the paper very soon announcing our group. So thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for inviting us.
Great, this is
Can't
probably a
invite
guess,
all.
but when do you think you might be ready to come back and say, here's what we got going? Cause it
Right.
seems to me this is all great input, but
Oh,
until,
it is.
until
It
we
is.
have,
And this will
a
be really
choice of
important,
locations.
right?
And that's been our biggest issue, is trying to find a location.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we've sent letters out to the municipalities around Rapids. Yeah, our group would, trying to keep it on the west side, just because there's nothing over there.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Just to kind of help. I mean, what did I just hear?
I'm hearing that, that's not true.
Business-wise, I
Business-wise, yeah,
believe
there's
she's
really not
means.
much there.
Kelly's,
To
Kelly's
attract
there.
people
Kelly
to that
lives there.
side
He
of
lives
it.
there.
I do too.
I live on the
I live on the
west.
west side.
If I might, I run a pet sitting service in town, I've been doing it for 25 years, and I do wanna just put in, I'm not part of this group, just happen to be, but I think that for Wisconsin Rapids, what we're trying to do is make our city attractive to people. I mean, we have jobs available for people, we want to attract people here, and that's just another amenity, you know, to think
I do
about
have it.
offering, and, you know, if the city
I
can
do have
help
it. Yeah.
make that, you know, possible, I think, you
This
know,
is the
that
property.
it would be a worthy investment, for us to consider putting our time, energy, and even
No,
money
it's just a picture.
into. No, I know that that's, you know, kind of, a little
That's
taken,
actually-
a bit, this,
Look that
this,
way.
I believe you're correct.
But every dog park is not created
Mhm.
equal.
Yeah,
That's
that
true, and
corner is really
yeah,
bad.
that's
So
definitely
is it a
true.
park or is it
Fenced in.
just running around?
We are looking
So this is
to
what
have
they
it
told us they
be,
did.
Rome's Dog Park is
The,
exceptional.
Jeremy?
So we're gonna pattern it, I think, after that,
Was it-
but I
I'm
don't
trying to
think we'll
think
be
of
able
who
to
it
do it right away, you know, as far as shelter-wise
Yeah,
or
because this is
that
the
type of
property
thing.
they
I know
told
the
us.
commission
This
did,
is the one that was just cleared.
talk about, cause we asked if we could have a shelter there, and they said, well, as long as it's not over 2 stories,
were
and we're
talking
like,
about
you know, it's gonna be a
years
picnic
of
shelter,
summer.
but it should be fine.
It'd be nice if you have a plan or some, at least
The only
rough
issue
draft
is
of what you think
some kind of-
you're
We are
aspiring
currently
to.
putting everything together, we do have bylaws, I encourage anyone to come and attend our meeting. It is the last Monday of the month at 7 p.m., currently at the Goodwill
Yeah, our
Community
parking,
Room,
that's where we were talking about, is
Um,
here for the parking.
and we're always here for
Just turning down
questions.
that road is where y'all.
If it's
Yep.
not in the city of Wisconsin Rapids area though, do we have a say in it? We won't have a say in it, right? Because with the airport, now that's 3 different municipalities in there, and if it's not on Wisconsin Rapids, city,
It's very small.
yeah, then we wouldn't have a say in input as to
I think that
what
piece
we
is-
can help out with, or, you know, that kind of thing, right?
Isn't that property city though?
Airport.
It's
And
airport.
it's actually in the
Airport.
village of, well,
It's
that
Grand
might be in
Rapids.
Grand Rapids on that side of the.
Yeah, it's Grand Rapids.
Okay.
I would think too, as things get rolling, depending on location, if it would end up being in the city of Wisconsin Rapids, we certainly could have a liaison from the city, maybe be on our board, that type of thing, just so we are all in the clear communication process. That's down the road though.
Yep,
Certainly to promote it.
Okay.
and all those things, yeah.
good.
Well, yeah, just, and I'll end it here with that, or this part anyway. I think to, you know, to put something in the paper, and that's fine, to look for new members and that, but from my point, I would hope that we're, not to put in, part of that article would not be a location being looked at.
No.
No,
It'd be to
No, it's not. It's just
to form your
introducing our group.
And your
It's
group meets
totally
and
about the
put
group.
different, I think, ideas together,
Yeah.
maybe to approach, Grand Rapids, the county, and that also. You know, sometimes, and especially.
Yeah, we have talked
where
to
the-
Grand Rapids,
wherever
we've talked
this-
to the county.
Wherever this, you know, may turn out to be, it may be something that's, the best way to do it is a collaborative effort.
we have been talking to those leaders as well.
And again, outside of
Yeah.
the, outside
Outside
of
of
the
the
community,
airport.
or outside of the city per se, and where it would be, is what, if there'd be any services to be looked at,
Right.
are not there.
Challenges with that.
So
Yeah.
I think it's, put it all together and, you know, where it's at, it might be tough. Where this commission falls in, I don't know. Again,
Yeah.
It'll be a
We might have to be a
process for
little
sure.
broader than just city when we
Yeah.
appreciate what this
Yeah,
might do.
yeah.
So I thank you for your
Yeah,
efforts.
good input, thanks. Okay, can we move along? Lee, have you taken a look
I
at the bill?
have, and I'd like to make a motion to approve the bills as shown.
Okay, motion by Lee.
Second.
Second by
Steve.
Steve. To approve, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Move into our last item here is, staff reports. Matt, you got a little something for us here?
A few things, other than we already talked about, ice ponds. Well, we've been running the west side pond, and it's been staffed basically on weekends at this point. But we've been maintaining it. We're gonna try to run through March 1st, weather permitting at this point. And Mary found somebody to staff it Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Christmas is done, we've got everything removed, stored. Our Tree City application's been submitted for 2020. Our zoo license has been submitted, and we're working on animal selection lists. And we've been doing quite a bit of work at Centralia, some paintings taking place over there. And we're looking at some lighting replacements there as the repair parts are now exceeding what the cost of a brand new LED light fixture is. So it's to the point where we can no longer fix the existing equipment more cost efficient than actually just changing the whole unit. So that's kind of where we're at with that. And surplus equipment, we've been running auctions pretty much nonstop. We've done a lot of shuffling around with vehicles, utilizing some old squad cars, that type of thing for different offices, and just trying to get more efficient on our vehicle use. So we moved a bunch of stuff around and getting rid of the stuff that's obsolete, so.
Good. Any questions, Roseanne? Thank you for that. I'm sorry, Mary, you
Oh,
ladies
that's
first. I'm
fine,
sorry, it was
no.
always ladies first. And you
No,
haven't been
that's
around
okay,
for-
Kelly.
I'm sorry. Mary, you have a
You're
report.
forgiven. Got completed the spring flyer. We'll start registration for all of our spring programming March 16th. We'll begin our T-ball and pitch ball registration March 2nd. The flyers have been sent to the kindergartners, the early childhood, and first and second graders over to the WRPS. As Matt touched on the ice pond, we basically have somebody there Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. It has been closed a couple of days due to the warm weather. On February 2nd, we had water standing on the pond, and then this past Sunday, with all the snow, we did not open the ice pond up. The attendance has been very low. Fall classes, we still have a lot of classes that are going on. The leagues, the basketball, the volleyball, co-ed and women's, and the open pickleball is still going on from our fall season. Special events that are coming up will be at the Children's Festival at Lincoln High School on April 25th. We have the Summer Fun Fair over at Rams that we'll be participating in. And for 2 job fairs, the LHS on March 12th and the one at Mid-State on April 7th. So we're hoping to recruit people for all of our summer programming and stuff. I've been busy working on the summer flyer, trying to get that completed so I can really tackle the aquatic center. I've drafted the staff planning and stuff. Been slowly working on that and gathering information from other municipalities. So hopefully that'll keep me busy until we open.
Good. Any questions of Mary? Thank you for that report. Okay, anyone?
Move to adjourn.
Okay, Tom.
We were gonna talk about time for tours of the aquatic center though. Remember?
Fridays are good days, if I recall, Ron's preference out there at from Myron. So, weather dependent, of course, but at least throw some times on the calendar, I think would be good. So, I don't know if we wanna plan for something. Like fresh snow is probably gonna be challenging.
I think last
this
time we
week.
went, we just had a snowfall too.
Yeah, it was quite a bit of fresh snow.
Yeah, Fridays at a specific time, Zach, or just Fridays?
We were there at
Fridays in
noon or
general,
11 or
Friday
whatever.
afternoon, yeah.
Last-
So if we wanted to look
Your
at like the
calendar's
21st, week out, yeah.
The 28th. I got that date open.
That's a Friday.
If their forecast is correct, and obviously long-term they rarely are, but there's a stretch of warm weather next week supposedly.
That's coming
So
up.
Yeah.
it might be a good time
Mhm.
near the end of next week to go.
Like the 21st.
And that's not good for you, right, Rick?
Takes about 45 minutes, and you can get through quicker, but.
I could if we did something like at, 3:30 or 4, but I'm booked up all day otherwise.
We can put it out there if Ron is unavailable. He's been good about letting us run and then do the tour ourselves too, especially if the crews are not working.
I like later times too, just works out better.
Probably works best 'cause contractors are gone too.
Yeah. What time was that on the 21st?
Like 4?
We'll just double check that, and Dawn will watch for an email from Dawn if there's anything that's changed or to confirm it, I guess.
I'll have to send out an agenda, I think.
Right.
Can I work a little early on Fridays?
Can I?
Boss let you out a little early on Fridays?
Yeah.
Maybe you should send out a couple of choices.
Yeah, we can do that too. I just wanted to throw at least
Sounded
one on
like
the
the
calendar.
28th was a good one too.
Yeah.
And then just see what people can make.
So we're not gonna set it yet?
No, I think we should set it, and
Okay.
then if it's,
Then if it changes?
right, we'll confirm with Ron first.
The 28th I could do any time on that date. But like Lee's saying, 4 o'clock is better. It's the only open day in the month.
I was wondering if we could just have our motion to adjourn and then I can take this off the air.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, I think the motion was made by Tom, second by Craig to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. I'd like to thank staff members, aldermen, guests, and public viewers as well. Good night.